Hi, I'm Anna. Welcome back to Books on the Go. I'm here with my Book Hibearnation TBR. So the Book Hibearnation is a great idea that Simon from Savage Reads has come up with while we all are in lockdown and to spend the weekend reading, and there are some fun prompts. So I thought I would do my TBR. It's more of a wish list because I'm still reading this chunky one, The Mirror and the Light, but we'll come back to that. And I'm just so determined to finish it and have that sort of completed before I start anything else. And we're doing it for the podcast in a week or so. So I won't, realistically, I don't think I'll get to many of these, but it was fun to do the list, and they're all books that I'm very keen to read soon anyway. So I will be reading them, but I can't promise it will be today or tomorrow. So I'm recording this on Saturday morning. So the first prompt is a book by a favourite author, and for this one I have All Our Worldly Goods by Irène Némirovsky, translated by Sandra Smith. So Irène Némirovsky is a favourite author in the sense that I found Sweet Française a few years ago and absolutely loved that, and discovered that she has a sort of back catalogue. So she was writing in the 20s through to the 1930s and up to about 1942. She was tragically taken to Auschwitz and died there. But she was writing during the occupation in World War II in France and as it was happening. So the books have a wonderful urgency and life as it's happening. And her writing is really beautiful. It flows. It's very natural. She's got a lovely natural writing style. And they're sort of often family stories, but obviously with a bigger picture of war sometimes in the background. And they're just stories that you can be swept up in, and a different time and also a wonderful sense of place. So I can't find her books locally other than ordering them, apart from Sweet Française. And so when I'm in London, I tend to buy a couple and just to have them, and so that eventually I'll read through all of them. And this one is All Our Worldly Goods. So it's a story of a forbidden love between Pierre and Agnes, and his snobbish mother wants him to marry somebody else. And so it goes on from there, but it then spans another generation. So it's set in the 1920s and early 30s in France. So I'm really looking forward to this. And yes, definitely a favourite author and one who I'm sort of gradually collecting her books when I find them. So that's All Our Worldly Goods. The next prompt is a book that you've been saving for a rainy day. So this would fall into that category because I sort of buy them and I know that I'll really love them. So, and I don't tend to read them straight away because I know that they're there and it's not a current sort of new release that you want to read while it's happening and fresh and while everyone's talking about it. So it just sort of sits on the shelf, but I know it's a book that I look forward to. So that would fall into that category. But another one that I would say I'm saving for a rainy day is a winter book by Tove Jansson. So again, a bit similar actually, another woman in translation and also an author who I love, and I tend to just buy her books as I see them, and so that gradually I hope to have all of her work. And this is translated by Silvester, MAzzarella, David McDuff and Kingsley Hart. And I think that, and introduced by Ali Smith. So this is a collection of her short stories. So I think that's why there are 3 different translators. And I don't know much more, but because it's a winter book, I have been saving it for literally a rainy day because I'd like to read it in winter. And at the moment in Adelaide, it's sort of 27 degrees, really warm and sunny, and it is technically autumn. So we're getting there into the good book reading weather. But I won't probably do this actually for this book, Hibernation, because I'd like to read it in cooler weather, which I know that's funny, but I do get particular. So I'm assuming that there'll be another book, Hibernation, coming up in a few weeks or in the future. And if that gets into our cooler months, this will definitely be on my list. And the next prompt is a book that's short and sweet. So for this one, I have two possibilities. One is Apple and Knife by Intan Paramaditha. And this is a book that I'm very keen to read. It's another collection of short stories. And we're about to read Intan's novel, The Wandering, for the podcast, which is her first novel. And this book is translated by Stephen J. Epstein. So I don't know much more, but it's Intan has kindly inscribed it for me and said, I hope you like stories about disobedient women. So it sounds really fun. I think it's got some gothic elements and some fairy tale and some strong women and interesting characters. And yes, so I'm looking forward to it. It's fairly short. Well, the stories are short anyhow, but I don't know if I'll get to it quite by this weekend, but soon. It could be something I can do, a story a day or something like that. And then I'm very keen to get to The Wandering as well, but that's a bigger book, so that doesn't fit this prompt. So that's Apple and Knife. And the other one that's short and sweet, which just sounds like a really lovely read to read at the moment, is A Month in Siena by Hisham Matar. So Hisham Matar was born in Libya, and I read his book, The Return, a few years ago, which was about the disappearance of his father. And Hisham Matar had left Libya. I think he was in England, and he'd gone back to Libya, and it was about this. Well, it was about the fact that his father had disappeared. So it's like a grief because you don't really know what's happened. In this book, he talks about the art of Siena. So he came across the Sienese school of painting when he was 19, and it had a real impact on him. And then around the time he wrote The Return, he sort of spent 3 years writing that book. And he said after that he came up for air and decided to journey to Siena and see this art. And so this is about his time there. And I love his writing style. He's got a very clear style, really lovely prose, and he's a very interesting, erudite writer and person to spend time with. So I think this would actually be a beautiful book for these times where you just wanted really something that is comforting and really takes you away from reality a little bit. And that's got some beautiful, I don't know if you can see that, but some pictures of the art as well in beautiful colour reproductions. So I'm quite excited to read that, and I'm wondering if I could fit that in amongst my other big chunky books that I'm about to show you. So that's A Month in Siena, which is short and sweet by Hisham Matar, and it has a blurb on the back by Hilary Mantel. So we have 6 degrees of separation because she's the author of The Mirror and the Light. And she says Hisham Matar has the quality all historians of the world and the self most need. He knows how to stand back and let the past speak. So that is A Month in Siena. The next prompt is a comfort read set in your favourite time period. And so for that one, I think I'll go back to All Our Worldly Goods just to keep it simple because we know this is already unrealistic. So Irène Némirovsky's writing I find it comforting, and the sort of 1920s and 30s, I would say that's one of my favourite time periods. I hadn't thought about favourite time periods in my reading before, and so that's interesting to think about. I'd never sort of stopped to think, do I have a favourite time period? But I think anything from the past and around that time there's something comforting about it. And for example, Agatha Christie is always comforting, and P.G. Wodehouse, and they're just, because it's a different era and maybe depending on the book, but there is something comforting about historical work, and I don't know why that is, but anyhow, that's I think that fits the prompt for comforting read in a good time period, all our worldly goods. And then we come to the bonus prompts. And so the first one is a book that's, I think, on the Women's Prize long list. I think that's the prompt. I hope I've got that right. And here we have The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel. So I won't I'll have a separate video about this, but I am now that far in. So I think I have about 100 pages to go, and I'm really determined to finish it. It has been long, and I love Hilary Mantel's writing. And I've loved Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies. So I'm very excited to be coming to the sort of completion of that series. But it has really taken me away from all my other reading. So it's that experience of reading a really long book that it's like a project, isn't it? So that definitely fits the prompt and will be happening this weekend. So I'll keep you posted when I get to the end of that one. And then the next prompt is a book that has a bear on it or in it. And the next book, coincidentally, that I have to read, or I shouldn't say have to, but I have been wanting to read, and we're doing it on the podcast, is Underland by Robert McFarlane. And this is a non-fiction book about things that happen underground and in both earth and in folk tales and, fairy tales. So it's the extraordinary voyage into our relationship with darkness, burial, and our planet's past and future. So going through deep time from the origins of the universe to a post-human Earth, passing through the Bronze Age burial chambers, the catacombs of Paris, Greenland's melting glaciers, the Arctic sea caves, the underground fungal networks through which trees communicate, and a deep sunk hiding place designed to store nuclear waste for 100,000 years to come. And so it's global, it's about geography, and apparently he's just a beautiful writer. I haven't read his work before. Anyhow, I've checked the index and there are bears in this book. So I'm very excited because I have to read it anyway, and now it fits the prompt. So I'll let you know where the bears come into it. I don't know, but I think there are different references because it sort of is about nature as well. And so I thought this would be I don't know how comforting it will be, but I think it can be nice in troubled times to read about nature and to immerse yourself in the natural world. And that's what I'm hoping this book might do, with lots of references to history and literature maybe throughout it. That's what I'm sort of expecting. So I think this will be a really good read for these times. And again, I'll just let you know, I'll report back once I've got into it. But that's coming up next after The Mirror and the Light, and it's at 500 pages long. So that's why I have been a bit dubious about how many of the other books I will realistically get to in the next 2 days. But I'm very excited to have those waiting for me as soon as I can get to them. So I look forward to seeing your progress and TBRs. Let me know if you're doing a book hibernation or what you're reading this weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.